He had managed to survive the fierce onslaught of the Monster King's newfound elemental abilities. As a result of this power surge, Grandpa Albert's sword had been activated, revealing its true potential. Now, Chenjia Lao's very appearance had undergone a profound transformation. This young man now stood tall, boasting a muscular physique and snowy white hair. One of his eyes gleamed as brilliantly as the sun, while the other radiated a luminescence akin to the moon at night. This remarkable change in his appearance was attributed to the elemental power that Chenjia Lao had acquired after discovering a glimmer of hope amidst profound despair. In his dazed state, he heard someone calling his name, urging him to awaken promptly. Upon opening his eyes, Chenjia Lao found himself in a bewildering environment. Although he remembered the moments before confronting the beast's king, he now found himself in an unfamiliar location, prompting him to ponder what had transpired and where he currently resided. Observing his body seemingly floating, Chenjia Lao contemplated the possibility of his demise. However, his fears were assuaged when a man suddenly materialized above him, declaring that he was indeed alive. This middle-aged man, donning white hair and clad in black attire, repeated Chenjia Lao's name, further igniting curiosity within him. Inquiring about the man's identity and how he came to know his name, Chenjia Lao was met with a response from the enigmatic figure, an individual who expressed a desire to learn more about himself. From the moment Chenjia Lao regained consciousness, this mysterious individual had been present in this strange realm, leading Chenjia Lao to question the duration of his entrapment. Unable to discern whether it had been 1,000 years or 10,000 since his entrapment due to the passage of time blurring his memory, Chenjia Lao found himself longing for release from this prolonged confinement. However, since awakening, he had sensed inklings within his mind hinting at a future liberation from this predicament. It appeared that he himself would play a pivotal role in orchestrating his escape. Eager to break free from his confinement, Chenjia Lao found himself approached by a white-haired man who extended a hand, urging him to accept him as his master. Convinced that adhering to this man would lead to his immediate liberation, Chenjia Lao accepted. Energy surged between them as their essences intertwined, resulting in a profound change within Chenjia Lao. Regaining his consciousness, he realized the veracity of the man's words. He was back in the midst of battle. The system notified him of his newfound elemental power, the power of chaos. It dawned on Chenjia Lao that the man he had encountered earlier embodied his elemental power. Meanwhile, the orc monster king Fenrir was astounded to find Chenjia Lao standing unscathed before him, exuding an aura of increasing strength. Empowered by an overwhelming surge of energy, Chenjia Lao's abilities were enhanced, and he gained mastery over the elemental skill known as Slaughter. With the Slaughter skill, the user would continue to consume 100 HP minute by activating the skill. The user could control the chaos attack. The damage from this attack could ignore defense, and each skill would increase in elemental power. Elemental power had unlocked the weapon. Now Chenjia Lao could use the weapon named Ozil. Chenjia Lao raised the great sword in his hand and realized that it did require elemental strength to wield Grandpa Albert's sword. Previously, it felt like an ordinary sword, but now that he had obtained the elemental powers and Grandfather Albert's sword had also been activated, the next step was the counterattack. Chenjia Lao immediately dashed toward the king beast with his newfound strength. Seeing that the king beast immediately activated the barrier and said it was just an insect. But Chenjia Lao dared to defy him, so the king warned Chenjia Lao that the youth would not be able to compete with him. But just as the Monster King finished speaking, his powerful barrier was broken by Chenjia Lao, and he was hit by the young man's attack. Even so, the king's beast refused to lose. He was still able to get up and jump at Chenjia Lao, thinking he couldn't possibly fail to defeat a human like an insect. He thought it was impossible for him, who was a king of monsters, to lose. This time he was going to bring out his full power to destroy Chenjia Lao, but in reality it was he who was slashed with the elemental skill, Bliss, which was so fast and powerful. This time, the king beast's sacred mask shattered, and he fell covered in blood. The system also appeared to give congratulations, because Chenjia Lao managed to kill the king beast Fenrir, so he was entitled to get 400,000 times level up. Chenjia Lao also earned 500,000 experience for completing the mission of killing the king beast, so he was also entitled to the black treasure chest. Meanwhile, in the village, Grandpa Aubrey kept reminding Boban to be serious about helping him and not to be lazy. Boban replied, "Uncle, I'm not lazy. It's just that I haven't farmed for a long time, so my hands are stiff. Meanwhile, Sally, who was sitting under a tree, asked the grandfather if Chenjia Lao would really come back. Since it had been 3 days since his departure, Grandfather Albert answered that it was certain, because in a few hours he would pick up Chenjia Lao. Suddenly there was a big bang sound that created an earthquake, a greenish light that currently caused the eyes to squint in the air. Boban first wondered what this was. Sally panicked and asked the grandfather what had happened there. Grandpa Albert replied that it was the energy wave generated by high-level monsters after being killed. The source of this came from a monster lair. Grandpa Albert noticed that it seemed like Chenjia Lao had awakened his elemental powers and killed the king's beast. The green light that was so terrible apparently came from the body of a king beast that had died in the cave. Risidler was even pale and amazed when he saw with his own eyes that the beast king had really been killed by a human. Filorga even thought that if he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would not have believed that a human being could be that powerful. Ross was also surprised to see Chenjia Lao's explosive strength during the fight. Slowly, Chenjia Lao's strength faded from his body. This young man didn't even expect that he could defeat such a powerful opponent. The two comrades were seriously injured, so he asked them to wait in that room only and let him save his friends. Then Chenjia Lao summoned Rashidler to take him to meet the humans trapped by the orc monsters. It was now clear that Rashidler didn't dare to refuse. After seeing Chenjia Lao's strength, he would gladly accompany Chenjia Lao anywhere he wanted. Suddenly, this young man's body went weak, and he felt dizzy, unable to hold himself up any longer. Amidst the thinning of consciousness, Chenjia Lao could still feel Grandpa Albert coming in as fast as lightning to support his falling body. Chenjia Lao heard someone call his name. When he opened his eyes, this young man saw the figure of his mother, who woke him up because it was already noon. Seeing his mother's face made Chenjia Lao tremble. He wondered if he had really returned home. When his mother smiled and said that she had prepared Chenjia Lao's favorite lunch, this young man couldn't hold back and immediately hugged his mother with a feeling of happiness. Chenjia Lao cried, saying that he was back, but suddenly his mother's voice changed when she asked what Chenjia Lao was doing. When he looked again, apparently what Chenjia Lao hugged was not his mother, but Boban, who had come to bring food. Instantly, they both felt awkward. When he was alone, Chenjia Lao stared at his palm and wondered when he had moved into the wooden house. Though the last thing he remembered was seeing Grandpa Albert holding back the aches in his head, the young man wondered how Ross and Filorga were doing. Suddenly, the system appeared and informed him that there was an unopened treasure chest in the inventory, as well as a number of points that had not been allocated. So the system was urging Chenjia Lao to use all of it immediately. The notification from the system made the young man remember that he had obtained a chest after defeating the Beast King and a key after defeating Boban. Now, without hesitation, Chenjia Lao wanted to use those two things. First, the system notified him of all the progress that Chenjia Lao had made, including a legendary ring belonging to the Beast King, which, when worn, could grant all the powers of the Beast King to the wearer. Meanwhile, the chest contained a legendary hidden item, a prize. When opened, apparently, the chest contained eggs. Now, in front of Chenjia Lao was a giant egg. He wondered if the eggs could be eaten. Suddenly, the egg shook and cracked. Chenjia Lao was shocked because the egg was about to hatch immediately. What came out of the egg was not an animal, but a human baby with a small horn on its head. Chenjia Lao was even more shocked when the child called him Papa in its small, unclear voice. The kid even boldly jumped at Chenjia Lao while continuously calling him Papa. Meanwhile, Chenjia Lao was still confused and asked the system to help him find out about the kid. Chenjia Lao looked annoyed when he saw that the prize from the treasure was a child. However, the system apologized instead because Chenjia Lao's request was not recognized. Chenjia Lao was asked to upgrade the system before starting the search. The system only notified that the creature was successfully paired with Chenjia Lao, so Chenjia Lao must take good care of the little boy. This young man was trying to confirm to the boy that he was not his father. Chenjia Lao wondered who this brat really was. He had no interest in small children, let alone bringing a child all the way to the shrine. Chenjia Lao would try to ask Sally or Grandpa Albert to find someone who would adopt this boy, as if he understood Chenjia Lao's words. Hearing that, the boy immediately burst into tears. Chenjia Lao panicked because the boy's cry was really loud. The system even appeared and warned that Chenjia Lao had injured this boy, so he should be punished for nearly leaving this creature. The countdown began. Although Chen Jialao was astonished, he still couldn't refuse. A light shone out from the boy's eyes that made Chen Jialao cover his face. Chen Jialao shouted in surprise. "Why?" There was no explanation for the punishment. When he opened his eyes, Chen Jialao was already in another place filled with snow and ice. This young man was wondering where else he was being sent now. Then Chen Jialao tried to calm the boy, who was still crying. Chen Jialao tried to explain to the boy that he would not leave the boy, but he was still a schoolboy and couldn't take care of a baby at all. Suddenly, there was a roar from an enormous monster. When Chen Jialao looked back, he saw 2 ice predatory dragons that were level 40. Those were monsters that belonged to the elite level. The system explained that the punishment was about to begin. Chen Jialao must kill all the monsters within 30 minutes. If not, then he would be attacked by double the number of monsters. At the beginning, Chen Jialao also had to protect the little creature he was with. If that brat were to die, then Chen Jialao would be deleted by the system. In addition, killing monsters in this area would not increase experience points at all as a form of punishment. As the dragon monster prepared to launch an attack, Chen Jialao reflexively grabbed the boy and protected him. When they got away from the dragon monster, Chen Jialao asked the boy to hold on to his neck because he didn't want the boy to die. Then Chen Jialao activated his elemental power and took out his heirloom sword. Together with the boy, who is now shouting cheerfully and calling for his father, Chen Jialiao is ready to go against the monsters. Chen Jialiao was still trying to slash a few more dragon beasts, even though he had succeeded in slaying countless dragon monsters. The monsters seemed endless, until finally the system appeared and informed that he had successfully completed the punishment and the time was over. Koya, the little boy, had been climbing on his neck, looking happy because his father had successfully completed the sentence. The 2 of them were teleported back to the wooden house. Chen Jialiao could now breathe a sigh of relief for a moment. Suddenly, Sally opened the door and was shocked to see a small child on Chen Jialiao's head. The girl asked where the little boy came from. Sally immediately picked up the little child and swung him to and fro. This girl looked happy and thought the child was very cute and very funny. Sally again asked where this baby came from because she really likes children. Chen Jialiao replied with a puzzled face that the baby came out of an egg. Sally obviously couldn't believe it and accused Chen Jialiao of joking because Sally had never heard of a baby hatching from an egg. Chen Jialiao himself was confused about this. According to him, however, it is impossible for any egg to hatch children. Plus, he couldn't leave the child or he would be punished like before. Chen Jialiao thought how cruel fate must be to accept. When Grandpa Albert and Bobin came in, Sally immediately showed them the cute baby that Chen Jialiao brought home. The 2 adult men immediately observed the baby closely. Boban expressed his previous feelings of not seeing a baby beside Chen Jialiao. So how could Chen Jialiao do it? Chen Jialiao tried to give an excuse by saying that the child was just crawling under the blanket. Chen Jialiao thought they wouldn't understand even if he explained the truth. Better not to explain as it really is, and assume that he just saved the boy from a monster nest. Grandpa Albert asked Sally and Boban not to make a fuss because Chen Jialiao had just woken up. Grandfather suggested the 2 people go prepare some food instead. Sally put the boy down and sweetly asked the boy not to be naughty just yet because she was going to go prepare some food shortly. And with his unique language, the boy obediently answered Sally. When only Grandpa Albert and Chen Jialiao were left in the wooden house, the old man suddenly apologized. Chen Jialiao was surprised and asked why Grandfather Albert apologized. Grandpa Albert felt that he had been careless in sending Chen Jialiao to the spot. This old man had thought that place was just an ordinary monster. He didn't expect that such a high-level monster would almost kill Chen Jialiao. Hearing Grandpa Albert's words, Chen Jialiao smiled and said that Grandpa Albert didn't need to feel guilty because it was Chen Jialiao's own choice to participate in the mission. Without this mission, Chen Jialiao would not have realized the things that Grandpa Albert had said, though he didn't know whether his being in that place was just a coincidence or not. Chen Jialiao began telling the story of when he faced the Beast King and his life hanging by a thread. He suddenly entered the void and met a strange man there. The foreign uncle told Chen Jialiao that he was already waiting for someone to become his master so he could get out of that place. Then Chen Jialiao accepted it without hesitation. Grandpa Albert listened carefully to the young man's story. Chen Jialiao also said that when he suddenly regained consciousness, he had obtained an elemental power called chaos. Everything felt like it had been arranged. Chen Liao asked Grandpa Albert if he knew what was happening to him. Did everyone who obtained elemental powers also enter a strange room like that? Grandpa Albert said no. The awakening of elemental powers would not lead one into a void. Grandfather Albert didn't even see anyone. The elemental chaos that Chen Liao spoke of had only been heard of by Grandpa Albert in ancient books that were thousands of years old. Grandpa Albert had never even seen that power with his own eyes. Chen Liao asked what the book said. Maybe there was a reason why he could come here. Grandpa Albert then told a legend from ancient times, saying that the evil god Morpheus came to this world tens of thousands of years ago. Chaos, murder, crime, and suffering enveloped the entire world. Everyone should choose to fight against the evil god in order to survive. Unfortunately, Morpheus's strength was too strong. Even the heroes from the human side were unable to withstand the devil's attacks at all. Just when the people were in despair, a man worthy of a king appeared. He is Hesiod. He possessed an elemental chaos that had never existed before, not even a match for the devils. Hesiod formed an army to face the evil god Morpheus. After decades of fierce fighting, Morpheus was finally killed, and his soul was sealed in the underworld of Tartarus. But in return, Hesiod was also trapped there forever. Chen Liao asked if it was possible that the man he saw was Hesiod. Grandpa Albert replied, "If Chen Liao really mastered the elemental chaos, then it is very likely that he did meet Hesiod." Sally entered and interrupted their conversation, asking what they are doing because the food was ready long ago. In the end, the conversation between Grandpa Albert and Chen Liao had to stop here because they had to go to the dining table. Before leaving, Grandpa Albert gave Chen Liao a message that the young man should not tell others about what he had just said. Before finding out the reason, Chen Liao nodded his head obediently. Chen Liao's eyes immediately lit up when he saw so much delicious food on the table. He didn't forget to praise Sally's cooking skills, which were getting better. Sally replied that she didn't do it alone. She was assisted by their new cook, who turned out to be Rashidler. Chen Liao was astonished to see the orc beast, so he asked why Rashidler was here. Rashidler timidly replied that Grandfather Albert had brought him home after he begged. Rashidler then served some more dishes on the table and asked everyone to taste the food he made. Grandpa Albert said that they didn't know anything about the situation in Latinia because Rashidler had knowledge of it. Grandpa took the creature home unexpectedly. Koya got along well with Rashidler. The boy fearlessly played with the monster's body, and Rashidler would happily hold the boy and babysit him while everyone ate. Chen Liao then asked how the two people in the cave were doing. Sally replied that they were sent to the medics in town by Grandpa. After eating, they could go see the two people. Chen Liao finally breathed a sigh of relief and ate with everyone. Chen Liao didn't forget to ask Rashidler to give the boy milk because the boy couldn't eat solid food. Yet outside their wooden house, Hicks could be seen watching with his men. One of Hicks's subordinate nitwits reported that the foreigner was none other than Chen Liao. Right now, he was with Grandpa Albert's gang. Hearing this, Hicks said that their surveillance was enough for now, and it was time for them to return to report. Well, that's all for today's story. Love the manhwa? Subscribe for more. Your support makes it all possible. Hit subscribe now!